Talking about crime, did you ever find out how the Chinese one was built? They were going to use criminals to... Hold on. Oh no, you bloody don't! This is my stuff, do you hear me? Fine! Clear off and die on your own! Grasping bastards. There. I'm a terrible shot, so I have to use an Uzi. It's like a garden hose, only with bullets. The Chinese one. Nominally, the People's Republic of China is atheist. But I have to tell you, a surprising number of their state scientists still think in terms of things like qi. Made for a very strange project. Infinite money, rigorous authoritarian logic, and mad shit from the dawn of time. Did you ever see photos of their work, Stubby? Huh? You Yanks really were rotten at the whole spying thing in the end, weren't you? But they didn't really have the technology for the thing until 1990. Mega Reactor Buddha's Spine. It was hard to miss. Theirs was named Maitreya, a subject enveloped by scanning, tunneling microscopes wired into his visual cortex. Forced to meditate upon his own atomic structure until he could perceive the quantum foam of every particle of his being, birthing and annihilating under the uncertainty principle. His emergence into superhumanity was heralded by the impossible light of zero-point energy, accessed from the spaces between virtual particles. I'm told it could have gone better for the witnesses. The Chinese filled a warehouse with political prisoners and told Maitreya to kill them to demonstrate his power over space-time and matter. A weapon's taste. He instead fashioned the guards into a vast musical instrument of entrancingly beautiful tone. Then configured all the officers and scientists into a self-supporting worm-like structure and fired them into space using the musical instrument. Where they journeyed as a biological probe of brains linked in parallel, reported information about the solar system back to Maitreya via quantum entanglement. Until the structure starting to break up was identified as Comet Shoemaker-Levy, and eventually smacked into the surface of Jupiter. Terrible, really. Penny rode up. I believe we'd reached the point in my bedtime story for the world where Pakistan was an atomic bog and Krishna was saving India by killing a great many people. I need to drink this more slowly. Might be the last of it. So, ultimately no one could contemplate dealing with Krishna through nuclear means. But Krishna had to be dealt with.
Everything is a manifestation of this nothingness. Krishna is the reality, absolute union of everything. An absolute union of everything means everything.
Even though he somehow processed out most of the hard radiation from the multiple detonations, he couldn't, or didn't, do anything about all the shit that flew into the air. And for that alone, people wanted revenge. Especially Iran. Malak, however, had driven much of his support team to atheism, despair, and suicide. Not only was he clearly not connected to anything like God, but reportedly the fucking thing would not stop talking.
To the north and to the south I show a sign proclaiming death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. Open your eyes that you may see, O men of mildewed minds, and listen to me, ye bewildered millions. For I stand forth to challenge the wisdom of the world, to interrogate the laws of man and of God.
That said, we still don't know what the thing's internal power source was. He may actually have been a conduit for something unnatural. Who knows? Who even cares? Someone said he shot radio waves. I don't know how you prove something like that.
I request reasons for your golden rule, and ask the why and wherefore of your 10 commands. Before none of your printed idols do I bend in acquiescence, and he who saith, thou shalt, to me is my mortal foe.
My point, you see, is that there was very little effective supervision of Malak at that time, and that the thing was essentially toxic to human life. But the really odd thing about Malak, given all that, was he'd shown no interest at all in the outside world. Silly place to put a secret underground lab, I thought. Yes, Tommy. I bet you did wish you'd had satellite coverage of Tehran that day. Darn those pesky atomic death clouds. I don't know. Lab-perfected pinnacle of human evolution, and it couldn't operate a bloody door handle. And so Malak left Tehran. We can only presume that he knew something had changed, and it concerned him enough to investigate. Was it the radiation, a temperature drop, perhaps the change in air quality penetrating even his subterranean cage? Or did Malak, like Morrigan Lucas, simply sense a competitive or sibling presence in the world? If only we had any idea at all about their minds. Do they think like animals, or God's computers? All we know is that Malak began walking towards Pakistan, which threw everything into even deeper chaos, because it presented too many options. Let him go and see if he can kill Krishna? Bomb him before he got there? Or... I'm calling it him again. Sorry about that, Tommy. Human failing. Anthropomorphizing something clearly inhuman. But you and yours have always been guilty of that, haven't you, Tommy? Talking about Jerry Craven like he's a real boy. I mean, what were you people thinking? Yes, we used astronauts too, but we didn't spend extra money on transforming them. $6.5 billion. In 1973 money. You could have just bought a few countries for that and ground the indigents up into gunpowder. And you're oh so clever. Dear me, our astronaut crashed into an experimental space vehicle scam. I don't know. Would it have been so hard to quietly disappear him into a Black Ops operating theater? You can't even do secrecy without big flamboyant publicity, can you? You had to kill him in public. We were impressed, I must say, by your miniaturizing technologies. A good 30 years ahead of your time. And the stem cell budding points on the crude artificial nervous system you built was inspired. And we all had a good laugh when British intelligence liberated the first of the post-op interview tapes.
I'm dead. I know I'm dead. And what I'm trying to work out is why you're all here too.
What makes you think you're dead, Jerry?
I know I am. I can move my body. I can command it. But I can't feel it. I'm inside a dead body. You know what I hate the most? I was a good guy. I really tried, you know. I was as good as I could be. But I'm not in heaven. What did I do wrong?
Your solution was of great interest to us. An underground American small-town heaven. The kind of place an all-American dead man would hope and pray to fetch up in. I like to imagine him there by his little picket fence in front of his little house, breathing in the air conditioning of his little heaven, never questioning his existing without eating, drinking, or sleeping because he thinks he's dead. Perhaps he thinks of the days he visited Earth. Imagine a man who thinks that America has actually made contact with heaven. A man so unhinged in his quiet and polite way that he believes the U.S. military can travel to heaven and take him out for day trips. He never questions the technology required to travel from America to heaven. He just some days goes out to the yard to wait, knowing the car's going to come for him. It's happened before, of course. Tommy, stop sounding so nervous. Of course we knew about Granada. And Novaya Garage, the Russian. What was the cover story again? Cuban workers building an airstrip, Granada about to go Soviet? I was so often amused by the idiot lies we've told people over the years. The Russians were staging Novaya Garage there. They knew by the radiation signature. Satellites could spot it from geostationary orbit. How much did you tell Jerry Craven, Tommy? Was he given a cover story too? Did you trust to his delusions of heaven, hell, and big American cars that could traverse them all? Did he know, in the Granadan jungle in 1983, what Novaya Garage even was?
Они сделали из меня машину войны. Мое сердце — ядерный реактор. У меня было имя, но я его не помню. Я не боюсь смерти, потому что я давным-давно уже мертв. You and me both, Ruski.
A dead astronaut versus a dead cosmonaut. The first meeting of nuclear-powered humans. That would have been a sight to see. Mind you, the compression wave caused by their first exchange of blows would have imploded the eyes of anyone in 1 mile radius. The view from space was fun, though. Novaya Garage was, of course, from an earlier era. Not as early as Morrigan Lucas, but very much a product of the early 1960s. Jerry Craven was built fully 10 years later.
Я не боюсь смерти. Make your peace with God, Ruski. Спасибо. Слава Отцу и Сыну и Святому Духу, ныне и присно во веки веков. Аминь. Господи помилуй, Господи помилуй.
We still know very little about Novaya Garage, comparatively speaking. But we can safely infer the poor bastard was obsolete long before he met Jerry Craven in Granada. I do hope these weren't out of date. I mean, I'm unlikely to find a chemist shop open right now. Obsolescence was uppermost in our minds once we really started considering the Indian problem. You were obviously going to send Jerry Craven into India to kill Krishna. Not that anyone aside from us, and possibly the Russians, were really aware of that. Here's what interested us. Jerry Craven may well have been a human atomic bulldozer, but he was a human atomic bulldozer from 1974.
Diversity unified, unity diversified. Both these things together are Krishna.
And a few things have changed since then.
भवे भवे सुभक्तिमान् भवे भवे सुभक्तिमान्